is it so silly to think that we now should be some isolated ghetto. We can be isolated in the ghetto, but we can't be together in unity.
I didn't say
building
that.
a nation. No, you didn't say that, but I'm saying it. You think that we're going off into some isolation.
Well, where will it be? Where will it be? You want...
Well, that's something we have to discuss.
Yeah?
We have to negotiate that.
Yeah, yeah.
Have the wounds of slavery healed from all black people? Not only have these wounds not healed, but slavery persists in different forms. Indeed, it might sound surprising, but in America, black people continue to face forms of oppression and exploitation by those in positions of power. In Africa, the situation is similarly dire, as external powers often manipulate and control local leaders, perpetuating conditions like modern slavery.
Providing a future for us.
So
it is wrong for us to stay around laying at the foot of white people like the Bible's Lazarus, begging for crumbs that fall from their table when we can go and make a table of our own.
Louis Farrakhan has been a vocal critic of these injustices, proposing various strategies to fight them. However, the question remains: can true independence be achieved without cooperation from those who perpetuate exploitation? Will black people need to forcibly challenge and overthrow these so-called masters to achieve genuine liberation? Let's find out. The economic and social disparities experienced by African Americans today are deeply rooted in over 310 years of slavery, during which black individuals were subjected to uncompensated labor. This exploitation has left a persistent legacy of wealth inequality and systemic injustice that continues to affect African Americans. Louis Farrakhan, a prominent leader of the Nation of Islam, has extensively addressed these issues, advocating for reparations and systemic reforms. Similarly, the impact of colonialism on Africa perpetuates economic and social struggles that mirror those experienced by African Americans.
But the death blow was dealt by the slave masters here in what is called now the United States. So since we didn't give up our right to Africa, then why should not we petition our own kith and kin to set apart for the children of the slaves certain land and territory that some of us, particularly those who have no hope whatsoever in the society, let them go to begin to build a new reality for themselves and for their people.
But how did the exploitation of black individuals during slavery shape modern racial and economic disparities? The legacy of slavery in America forms a crucial part of understanding the current racial and economic disparities. From 1619 to 1865, black Americans endured 310 years of enforced labor, which was instrumental in the economic development of the American colonies and subsequently the United States. Enslaved individuals were exploited across various industries, most notably in agriculture, where they played a pivotal role in cultivating cotton, tobacco, and sugar, key commodities that underpinned the American economy. The economic advantages derived from slavery were profound. The wealth amassed by plantation owners, industrialists, and merchants was significantly bolstered by the labor of enslaved individuals who received no compensation. This lack of economic reward for their labor prevented enslaved people from accumulating wealth or owning property. Consequently, this economic imbalance has been inherited across generations, creating a stark disparity between those who benefited from slavery and those who suffered from its injustices. This historical exploitation has contributed to present-day socioeconomic disparities. For example, the wealth gap between black and white Americans is markedly pronounced. A 2021 Federal Reserve report reveals that the median net worth of black households is merely 1/10 that of white households. This gap is a direct result of the historical exclusion of black individuals from economic opportunities and property ownership, practices which were reinforced through discriminatory policies such as redlining and segregation. Educational and employment opportunities reflect these historical inequities as well. Systemic racism and underfunded educational institutions in predominantly black neighborhoods have historically restricted access to quality education for black individuals. employment discrimination has further perpetuated economic disadvantage, with black workers often facing lower wages and fewer job prospects compared to their white counterparts. The enduring effects of slavery on wealth accumulation, educational attainment, and employment opportunities contribute to the persistent socioeconomic disparities observed between black and white Americans.
We agree that these brothers and sisters of ours can't get any justice within the social, political, and economic order that you call the United States.
You said if. You don't think they can.
Why shouldn't we be separated in a state or territory of our own?
Because then there's this imaginary line. You get some sheriff down there chewing mail pouch, and we've discussed this before.
But look,
all of a sudden, somebody starts holding hands with somebody else at the drive-in theater, and then the racist words are heard in the night, and there goes the neighborhood. Come on, you can't possibly expect.
You can't trivialize the cry for justice. Right. Now, it was not impossible for England, France, America, and the United Nations to take land from the Palestinians and settle Jews in a state of their own, giving hope to oppressed Jews all over the world. Why should there be this trivialization of a desire on the part of black people, since we have not made it here, to go and do something for ourselves? We as black people have to provide a future for our people, for the government, and white people are not providing a future for us.
But the question here is, what does Louis Farrakhan say about the origins of white privilege and the proposed solutions for addressing systemic racial issues? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Louis Farrakhan, a prominent leader within the Nation of Islam, has provided a comprehensive analysis of white privilege and its roots in historical injustices. Farrakhan posits that white privilege is not an inherent characteristic, but rather a consequence of systemic exploitation and discrimination that began with slavery and persisted through segregation and modern-day racism. According to Farrakhan, white privilege stems from the systemic advantages afforded to white individuals as a result of the historical exploitation of black people. These advantages include economic benefits, social status, and access to opportunities that were systematically denied to black individuals. Farrakhan argues that addressing these inequalities necessitates more than superficial changes or legislative measures. He advocates for a comprehensive black agenda aimed at tackling the root causes of racial disparities and endorses reparations as a critical component of this agenda.
But the present generation of whites are in their privileged position because of what a former generation of whites have done. Now the question is, a black agenda should be put before them, because if they don't accept the responsibility to clean up this problem, you don't have a lot of time to wait 40 more years for a benevolent white president or a benevolent black president. That day is over. America is facing the judgment of God as we sit around this table.
For Farrakhan, reparations represent a crucial step in rectifying historical injustices. He argues that reparations extend beyond financial compensation to include acknowledging and addressing the long-term impacts of slavery. This encompasses providing economic support, investing in black communities, and creating opportunities for advancement. Reparations should also involve a formal recognition of the injustices committed and a commitment to addressing these wrongs through policy reforms and social programs. In addition to reparations, Farrakhan calls for systemic reforms to tackle the underlying causes of racial inequality. He argues that existing political and economic systems are designed to perpetuate disparities rather than resolve them. Farrakhan's analysis emphasizes the necessity for a proactive approach to dismantling systemic racism and fostering equitable opportunities for all individuals. Farrakhan also contextualizes these issues within the broader economic framework, highlighting the severe financial crisis facing the United States with over $60 trillion in debt. This economic instability, combined with a reliance on military power, exacerbates domestic issues and diverts focus from addressing systemic inequalities. Farrakhan's insights provide a framework for understanding how historical exploitation and contemporary economic policies intersect to sustain racial and economic disparities.
Because she can't pay the debt, but she can bully those whom she is in debt to with fear over her military prowess. I'm here to tell you she's losing there too. Now I close. Our people need repair.
Yes.
We need repair from 310 years of chattel slavery.
Now the question is, how has this impacted Africa? The influence of colonialism on Africa is a pivotal aspect of understanding the continent's current socio-economic and political landscape. During the colonial era, European powers imposed foreign cultural, educational, and political systems on African societies, disrupting traditional structures and practices. This imposition fostered a legacy of dependency on foreign systems and institutions, which has had enduring effects on development and self-perception in Africa. Colonial powers frequently disregarded existing African governance systems, replacing them with European-style administrative structures ill-suited to local contexts. This disruption undermined traditional leadership and social systems, creating power vacuums and contributing to political instability. The exploitation of Africa's natural resources during the colonial period resulted in significant profits for Europe, while local economies remained underdeveloped. The colonial educational systems prioritized European languages and cultures over indigenous knowledge and practices, resulting in a generation of Africans trained to serve colonial interests rather than develop their own communities. This educational disparity continues to affect many African countries, which struggle to build effective educational systems and foster innovation. Cultural erosion also played a significant role in shaping post-colonial African societies. Many Africans were taught to devalue their own culture and traditions, leading to a diminished sense of cultural identity and pride. This cultural degradation has had lasting effects on self-perception and community cohesion, impacting efforts to promote national unity and development. Post-colonial African leadership faces challenges rooted in the colonial legacy, including corruption, political instability, and threats to safety. These challenges are exacerbated by remnants of colonial administrative systems and economic structures that continue to influence governance and development. The economic disparities between African and Western countries are a direct consequence of colonial exploitation. While Western nations have accumulated substantial generational wealth through the exploitation of African resources and labor, African nations continue to confront the economic repercussions of colonialism, such as poverty, inadequate infrastructure, and limited access to essential services. These factors hinder development and perpetuate ongoing struggles.
Where black men were forced to be studs, to make black women pregnant, to make more slaves for the slave master. And that same unhealthy attitude of misusing our women and making babies that we have no desire to take care of is still with us. Willie Lynch, who gave the ways that we could keep being divided so that they could rule us for 1,000 years. That sickness is still with us.
The generational wealth accumulated by Western countries, derived from the exploitation of other regions, highlights the stark contrast with the developmental challenges faced by African nations. Western countries have leveraged centuries of economic growth fueled by the exploitation of resources and labor from colonized regions. This wealth has facilitated advanced infrastructure, robust social systems, and significant global influence, contributing to high standards of living and economic stability. In contrast, African nations continue to grapple with the legacies of colonial exploitation and disrupted societal structures. The colonial period left enduring impacts on economic systems, governance, and societal norms, contributing to ongoing developmental challenges. Many African countries face inadequate infrastructure, limited access to education and healthcare, and political instability. These issues are compounded by the colonial legacy, which has shaped contemporary economic and political landscapes in ways that hinder progress. The disparity in generational wealth between Western countries and Africa also influences global economic dynamics. Western nations wield substantial economic power and influence over global markets and policies, often to the detriment of developing countries. This dynamic perpetuates a cycle of dependency and inequality, marginalizing African nations in global economic discussions and decision-making processes. And something must be done.
Yes, we got a black president, but brother said it was confusion. He confused the issue. But really, he never wants to lose the white vote. So if he loses the white vote, he don't care that you voted for him. But if he loses the white vote, he feels he will lose. Dear brother, if you're watching, out of love.
Out of love.
There it is. That's right.
You won't lose the white vote of those whites that really understand this problem and know that this problem needs to be solved, and we can't keep relegating it to generation after generation because a few of us got a little money, a few of us got positions, a few of us have wealth, while the masses of our people are going steadily down. No one man can rise above the condition of his people.
Amen.
So President Obama, this august body of brothers and sisters that really love you want you to use your bully pulpit, but then after you do that, then what about us? See, brother said responsibility. Is it that we should let them take responsibility to do for us, or should we pool the knowledge that's at the table, the power that's in our community?
But how can collective action and increased awareness contribute to addressing the historical and ongoing injustices faced by African Americans and Africans? Addressing the issues stemming from historical exploitation and colonial legacies requires a unified effort from both affected communities and global stakeholders. Both African Americans and Africans must recognize the impact of these injustices and collaborate to address them through advocacy for reparations, systemic reforms, and development initiatives. For African Americans, the call for reparations is central. Reparations involve more than financial compensation. They also encompass efforts to rectify historical wrongs and provide pathways for economic and social advancement. This includes addressing systemic disparities in education, employment, and housing, and creating opportunities for economic empowerment within the Black community. Collective action and advocacy are essential in promoting legislative and policy changes that address these issues.
Our community, the wealth that's in our community, to change the harsh reality of Black life in America. He can create an atmosphere.
That's what it is.
But we have to do the job of fulfilling the Black agenda. Thank you very much.
In addition to reparations, systemic reforms are crucial for addressing the root causes of racial inequality. This involves dismantling systemic racism, improving access to quality education and healthcare, and creating equitable economic opportunities. Grassroots movements and community-led initiatives play a vital role in advocating for these changes and holding policymakers accountable. In Africa, collective efforts should focus on addressing the legacy of colonialism and supporting development initiatives. This includes promoting economic growth, improving infrastructure, and strengthening governance. Engaging in discussions about the impact of colonial legacies and participating in development efforts can drive meaningful change. Renewing a sense of cultural pride and identity can also empower African nations to reclaim their development trajectory and assert their place in the global community. Global awareness and solidarity are also critical in addressing these issues. By acknowledging the historical context of racial and economic disparities, individuals and nations can work towards more equitable solutions. Supporting initiatives that promote fair trade practices, advocate for global economic reforms, and address systemic factors contributing to inequality is essential. Furthermore, international cooperation can facilitate the exchange of knowledge, resources, and best practices to support development in Africa and address issues faced by African Americans. Collaborative efforts between governments, NGOs, and community organizations can drive progress and create opportunities for meaningful change. In the end, tackling these deep-rooted problems requires a concerted effort from both affected communities and global actors. By fostering awareness, advocating for reparations, and supporting development initiatives, we can work towards rectifying historical wrongs and fostering a more just and equitable world. Through collective action and a commitment to understanding and addressing historical context, meaningful progress can be made toward overcoming the legacy of exploitation and building a more equitable future. Do you think we need to empower ourselves instead of waiting for someone to help us? Can Africans and all Black people in America get what they want by simply standing for it? Let us know in the comments section what you think is the way to get independence from masters. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.